Hey everybody, this is Ken Bennett. This is the man who is the former Attorney General or Secretary of State, former Secretary of State here in the great state of Arizona, and he's the guy that is heading up the audit. He's going to explain to us right now why this whole thing is going down.
Okay, good. Now, all right. Let's bring it down to some numbers that everybody can understand, which is 1,000. So, if Arizona, in medieval England, if 1,000 people congregated in one area, they called it a shire. Yorkshire or Devonshire. Let's call it Arizona Shire. And the head of a shire was called an earl, and the chief law enforcement was called a reef. That's where we get the word sheriff, is the shire reef. That's where we get the word sheriff. So let's pretend that the November election was 1,000 people in Arizona and 80% of them voted. So we had 800 people vote. Actually, we had 808. But when we counted the votes, Biden is 401 and Trump was 399. That's how close the election was in Arizona for president. 0.3%. Now, if you were either the winner or the loser in the Arizona Shire election, and it would occur to you that, wow, 401 to 399, if just one vote was incorrectly given to the one instead of the other, maybe it was a tie. Maybe it wasn't a 2-vote win. Maybe it was 400 to 400. And so you would start asking the elections director of Arizona Shire, what should we be checking? Well, first of all, what about this? You say 808 voted, but you're only telling me that there's 800 votes. Well, that's exactly what happened in Arizona. About 1% of the people who cast a ballot in the November 2020 election, the machines didn't record any vote for president of the United States. So in Arizona, that was over 33,000 ballots cast in Arizona didn't have a vote recorded by the Dominion machines for president. And so you would want to make sure, if you asked the election director of Arizona Shire, what things should we check to make sure that an election this close was absolutely accurate, I think he or she would tell you 4 uns. Uns. The first one is there anything that was uncounted? And that's we had 808 people go to the polls, but only 800 votes cast. In Arizona, we had 33,000 ballots that the machines didn't register any vote for either presidential candidate. Another thing they would say, 700 of these people got their votes by mail. What about, were any of those envelopes unsigned? So you'd want to check, were all the envelopes signed? Then, since those mail-in ballots are mailed out in the mail and they're folded and the voter fills them out and sends it back in, you'd want to know, okay, are all of the ballots that were sent out by mail, are they folded? Is there any unfolded that should be? And you'd want to check because, if 700 envelopes came back but only 650 of them were signed, then you'd say, we got a problem with the signatures. Or if 700 ballots came back by mail but only 500 of them are folded, you'd say, how did those other 200 get into the system? And then the last thing you'd want to check is are there any ballots unaccounted for? There's a contractor that mails out the ballots for Maricopa County. They probably mailed out over 2 million. 1.9 million came back. But have we accounted for the other ballots that, were not deliverable because somebody had moved, died, whatever? So we're really looking at 4 uns. Was anything uncounted? And we know that there's 33,000 in the November election that didn't show any votes for president. Were there any envelopes that were not signed? Were there any ballots that went out by mail and came back by mail? Are they all folded? And then in any other way, is there anything unaccounted for? And that's what the audit is really looking at. And so if you think about Arizona as 1,000 people, and you've got an election where 800 votes were cast, and it's 401 to 399, that tells you why we're verifying every vote possible.
Now, isn't that crazy? That's not what you're hearing on CNN. That's not what you're hearing on MSNBC. That's not what you're hearing on all this crazy, the conspiracy theory. This is the guy that they're saying this is a conspiracy theory. He just broke it down to you why we're having this audit. He broke it down to you. This is what they're doing right behind me in this building. All right? We got a little bit more. All right, Ken, I want to ask you, why is it so important to check the signature on the ballot?
On the envelope. Because that, by Arizona state law, is the affidavit that a voter has to sign to meet the state law that says the signature on the ballot envelope is the affidavit, just like if you're going into the polls and you sign your name on the poll book. That's the affidavit that proves that you were the one that filled out that ballot.
Now we're talking about thousands of ballots coming in here, so you're talking about
1.9 million of the 2.1 million ballots came through the mail.
Wow.
And we have people that worked for Maricopa County telling us that they started out with a very high standard for making sure that the signatures checked, the slant of the lines and how they start their letters or dot their I's or end their T's or whatever. And then they got so far behind that they cut it to 10, then 5, and then 1, and this stuns me if this is true. This is why we have to verify it. I'm told that they were told, as the people verifying the signatures, to let everything go through, including blank signature boxes. If that's true, then we have a major problem, because state law says that those signature affidavits have to reasonably resemble the voter's signature on their voter registration.
And so that's why when you're going through this process here, the unsigned is huge. When we're talking about if they were not folded, if they were not signed, then you have a problem. And that could go to explain why we have this discrepancy.
Well, or what we need to fix in the next election.
Right.
The Senate made it very clear when they asked for this audit that this has nothing to do with going back to trying to change the results of the November 2020 election. This only has to do with, do we have weaknesses in our election system that need to be fixed going forward? And so if we have a whole bunch of unsigned ballot affidavits, or if we have a whole bunch of unfolded ballots that should have been folded because they went out and came back in the mail, then we have some things that we can fix and remedy before 2022.
You want to know? I want to ask you. Do we have some stuff that we need to remedy? I know it's still early in the process, and I know you probably can't say anything.
We're not. The Senate contract with the auditor says that we can't release any interim findings. So we're not talking about anything we found, but I just want to talk about the things that we're looking for. And the unfolded part also speaks to other aspects of are the ballots on authentic ballot paper. So they're taking 5K pictures of the ballots. They're looking for the folds, but they're also taking some microscopic images to see if the ovals were filled in by a handheld writing instrument as opposed to just a Xerox. Do we have thousands of ballots that were just Xeroxed instead of filled in by hand? All of those are critical pieces of understanding. Has every ballot been counted? Has every vote been counted? Are the ones that are the ballot envelopes signed? Are the ones that should have been folded? And are there any that were mailed out and returned undeliverable that we haven't accounted for?
This is where all the action is going on. What's the meaning of the yellow and the green and the blue?
And the red.
And the red, okay.
Those are just divisions of people doing the same thing. It just kind of breaks the overall group up into 4 groups. But the yellow, green, blue, and red or pink tables they're all doing the same thing. But there's 2 main things happening on the floor. You can probably see right over here. Everything that has a circular lazy Susan or whatever you might want to call it. One person puts the ballot on the little easel, And then there's 3 people seated around the table, and they look at the votes on that ballot, write the votes that they see on a tally sheet that each one has, and then the other person at the table takes it off. And the ballot just goes around. They do it usually in groups of 50 or 100. And then those tally sheets have to match. At least 2 of the 3 have to match. If all 3 match, of course, that's great, but 2 of the 3 have to match, and then that's considered a good count.
And you have to do all of those boxes or all those,
yes,
that's all the ballots? Wow.
Well, there's 30 boxes over there. We received 30 pallets, excuse me. There's 30 pallets, usually with about 40 boxes on each pallet. So we have 16 other pallets that we've already been processing in one stage or another. The other thing that's happening at these other square tables is the review of the paper. So you'll see a person who will take a picture of the back of the ballot. He'll take a picture of the back of the ballot, then he'll flip it over, take a picture of the front of the ballot. It's a high resolution image. Then he passes it to another individual who puts it under some microscopic cameras where they're looking for the indentation marks where the ovals were filled in by human hand as opposed to just made by a Xerox machine or something like that. And then they go right back into the same box. So each ballot's going through 2 processes. One is the counting at the tables with the circular Lazy Susans, and the other one is at the paper evaluation tables where they're capturing the images of the ballot to look at all kinds of things. Are the fibers of the paper broken where the folds were? At times they're measuring the thickness of the paper. They're looking for alignment marks that the contractor that prints the ballots for Maricopa County printed to make sure that these are authentic ballots.
Okay, this is a serious operation. Who's running this thing?
Well, the general contractor that the Senate hired was Cyber Ninjas out of Saratoga, Florida. But the contractor doing the hand count is a company out of Pennsylvania called Wake TSI. And they do hand counts for other states, other election jurisdictions. And so probably about half the people here are paid. And then they've also had volunteers that are coming in to help with the counting. But most of the people here were background checked and vetted by Wake TSI to be counters, and most are probably being paid, and then a lot of them are volunteers. The people in orange are observers from all different parties: Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians. You'll also see some people in some purple shirts here and there. Those are the runners. Well, there's some runners over at the far end of the room is the accumulation table. So as the batches that are tallied by the 3 people at the table, they get taken over to an accumulation table where they add double and triple check that as they put that into their total count.
And when do you expect for this process to be completed?
Well, we have to step aside for about a week. This Friday will be our last day. Saturday, they have to get the building ready for 18 high school graduations for the Phoenix Union High School District. That will occur next Monday through Thursday, and then we'll come back in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, get the building set back up again, and we will probably restart the counting on May 24th.
So they got to take all these tables down, yes, and take all those ballots out.
And we're going to secure all the ballots somewhere here on the premises. We're not talking too many details, but we will secure all of the ballots here on the Fairgrounds property and make sure that they are guarded 24/7 like they have been since Maricopa County brought them. They've been under armed guard security 24/7. They've been under 24-hour live stream video. They're in the locked cages, as you can see. Nobody gets to a ballot unless they have a specific purpose for doing something with that ballot, which is what's required by the Arizona Election Procedures Manual. And every ballot is carefully made sure to go back into the same box that it came out of. And then after it's been counted and after the paper's been evaluated, then it goes into this corral here which is all complete. So we've got all of that over there to be done, and looks like right now by the end of this week, I think we'll be about a third of the way through. We will have handled about 15 to 16 pallets with about 30 to go.